So this is Gordon Einstein. I am in Hong Kong at the Hong Kong Blockchain Week, and it's loud and it's crowded.
Yes,
And I'm here with my buddy Brad, who I'm going to let introduce himself because I really just can't capture the wonderfulness that is Brad. This is going to be a very unprofessional YouTube video, but we don't really care because we're buddies and we can do whatever we want. Brad, amazing to see you.
Thank you. You too. So
let's talk about you. Did you like my panel?
I loved your panel.
Fantastic.
It was entertaining.
Entertaining.
Yes.
That's what I go for.
Yes.
Law entertainment. Yeah. Law comedy is the best.
Yep.
Anyways, okay. So let's tell the folks at home, what the hell are you doing here? What's your story?
I'm here supporting my friend's event.
Okay.
Occasionally, they invite me to these things, and I show up and help out. I clean the floors, set up the mics sometimes.
Really?
Go for stuff for speakers. That type of stuff. Yes.
I asked you for some water, and you told me that.
I brought you coffee earlier.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
You brought me coffee, so you are my friend.
It even had sugar and cream.
It did. It was fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, so separate from your pro bono charity-oriented services, let's start that again. What are you doing? What are you doing in Hong Kong?
So I'm in Hong Kong because I wanted to talk about blockchain.
Okay.
And see where the market is going, what the trends are. Most of the time, because of my involvement with the investment aspect of things, I get asked what's going to happen, what's a good project, things like that, and it's really difficult to give that kind of advice because it takes a lot of experience and trial and error to pick winners in the space. So I try to distill that experience in small bite-sized morsels and share it with the audience.
And you had a panel yesterday.
Yes, I did.
It went well.
Yes, it was well attended, and my fellow panelists were really good company.
Exactly. And so what do you think of, I guess, Hong Kong as a city and then Hong Kong as a jurisdiction?
Well, I love Hong Kong as a city. It's very vibrant, exciting, and different from anywhere else in the world. Hong Kong as a jurisdiction is a question mark right now because of the transition from British governance to Chinese. Hong Kong has been changing drastically in the banking and financial sectors because obviously mainland China has a different monetary policy and financial perspective on things than this what used to be a free zone. So I think it's the same thing in crypto. Earlier on, there was a lot of activity that was allowed and not necessarily regulated or.
Now, you're speaking in Hong Kong or worldwide?
Hong Kong.
Okay.
Hong Kong. And now that's changing because China wants Hong Kong to be part of the mainland. So their positions on crypto that they have mainland is slowly seeping through the borders and affecting what you can and cannot be done in Hong Kong. But it's still a welcoming environment.
I'm struck by, as you know, I hadn't been to Asia until the end of last year at all. And then or mid last year at all. And then all of a sudden it was in Singapore, Tokyo, Thailand, it was in Shanghai airport, and now I'm in Hong Kong. So I'm just beginning to get my feet wet a little bit. I think China's very interesting, but the experience of coming to Hong Kong is dramatically different from the experience of coming to Shanghai. Hong Kong, you just have your APEC business card, traveler's card, and they just whiskey, as American, they just whiskey right through customs, and you're done. It's easy. And I wouldn't say it's an English-speaking city, but you're certainly not struggling at all. All the signs are in English, the prices are in English, and most restaurants, even if they have the text of the meal in Chinese, subtitles. So it's an interesting middle zone. It's not quite Singapore, I guess, from my perspective, but I've had no problem maneuvering around. There's Uber. Everything's friendly and open. And I thought the Shanghai airport was very impressive in size. I could feel
And it's a different culture.
Like a heavier process, even though it's both China.
Yes.
So is that your impression as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I crossed over to Shenzhen a couple times from Hong Kong, and it's a very different experience. The just like you said, the welcoming cities in Asia that we both have been to, Singapore, Seoul, Tokyo, Hong Kong, make it super easy and truly welcome you, regardless of where you're from, whether it's Europe or US or wherever, another Asian country, you're welcome, and it's amazing how they achieve that feeling that you arrive and it's familiar and you want to be there. And then when you're talking about mainland China, there's that reservation towards foreigners. Of course, we need a visa to visit, and
They're doing iris scans, thumbprints, and fingerprints.
well, I mean,
it's all things.
United States does that too to
That's
visitors,
true.
so that's expected. But
You know, that's an interesting point. I mean, coming in with a U.S. passport to the U.S., I'm not going to encounter it, but someone else might.
Yes.
That's an interesting point. Okay, go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, it is different. It is more traditional, heavier, as you put it. But
So I have to say, individually, the Chinese, I guess, airport employees, including security that I spoke to when I was in Shanghai, individually they were friendly and accommodating and trying to help out. It just felt like there's more of a system in place, but Hong Kong is more open.
Yes, they are. They have been, to my experience, of course I can't speak for anyone else, but they've always been very professional and helpful.
Right.
But then if the process itself is a heavy process, they have to follow it.
Right, exactly. So what do you see? I have a sort of expansive question, which, here we are in Asia, and we're still in the beginning of 2019, and you and I had a lot of experiences in 2018 with crypto and blockchain and working with startups. Where do you see the market going now? How do you see things developing for the remainder of this year and going into 2020?
Well, I think there's going to be probably a floor. And there are two parallel but exclusive paths. One path is, of course, things picking up, the market getting unwanted attention, just like in 2017,
Sure.
which would correlate to a bull market, but also some of the undeserving.
I got to pause you for a second. Unwanted attention that correlates to a bull market.
Yes.
As in retail investors jumping in before they should, or how do you mean exactly?
I'll get to that. But so that's one pathway. We have a bull market, and a lot of projects come in just because they think it's easy money. So what I meant by unwanted attention is all your moon, pump and dump, get rich quick schemes or projects that come, make a lot of noise, so the general public only hears about them. And then you have a handful of good people doing really strong, world-changing projects that take longer, and they're not talking about it because they want to build something first, and there's nothing to talk about. But then that's the brush that we get painted with in the blockchain space. Everyone hears about the superficial, and then that's what frames the work we do, as opposed to all the long-term projects or the good ones that may not have the interest of creating that hype. So that's one path. If we have a bull market, there's probably going to be a similar environment as late 2016, early 2017, which is not bad in and itself, but I personally enjoyed the crypto winter and things calming down, and the opportunistic elements leave the industry to go do something else. Maybe go to cannabis or go to other alternative assets. The other side of the fork is we stay in the current state, and more institutional money, more venture, more private deals get done. And I still believe both paths lead to a multiplier of the market size. However, the second one could be slightly better for the overall image of the industry. If there's not such huge movement, and don't get me wrong, I want the market cap to go back to $1 trillion as soon as possible, because obviously.
Well, that's an interesting question. You want to go back there, or you want to go back there as soon as possible?
Yes,
Or both?
yes, but I mean, good catch there. As soon as possible in an organic manner.
Okay.
Not hype, a lot of money comes in and then everyone takes their profit out and the money leaves.
Right.
Not that way. But I think the second route is better for us, because with that organic growth, we'll still have maybe multiple growth in investment in early stage projects and mid cap and large cap companies coming and bringing their own implementation of blockchain into the space, but we would probably have less hype and less identity issues.
Now, let me ask you also, you're an interesting fella. I mean, you're a friend and collaborator and everything else, but one thing I always appreciate about you is you wear many hats and you blend them well. So there's investor, there's advisor, there's mentor, which is related, I think. You also seem to have the ability to pull together teams of people, ad hoc, formal, both. How do you personally plan to deploy that? First of all, would you say that's a fair description? I think it's the ego flattering one, but I think I'm right when I say that about you.
Well, yeah. I mean, thank you for that kind description.
Sure. And then, what are your plans for 2019? And then, how do you deploy that panoply of hats, if you like, to maximum effect in terms of the projects you advise, invest in, work on? What's your game plan?
Well, I mean, the game plan has been same since the early times I started investing, because you build an ecosystem. It's a huge advantage and an opportunity to have access to capital. But what I've seen is, even with a good resource pool, it is highly difficult to nurture projects and people and whole industries across different stages. So those many hats, it's out of necessity. It's not because I want to do a lot of things. I actually like very much being focused, but the strategy for the year is going to be invest strategically in a dozen or so good projects, and then as needed provide the partnership, the 360 partnership through advisory to bring them to their next milestones. And then
let me pause you for a second. You're being evocative of something you said during the panel yesterday, because the moderator, maybe I was aping his question a little bit, was asking the different panelists how they're getting involved, what they're doing, and so forth. And then there's an interesting contrast between you speaking, you used that term yesterday with the 360, and someone else where they characterize themselves as investing and providing advice as needed or upon request. So, I mean, you're not that you're right or they're wrong or anything like that, but it's a different philosophy, maybe.
Yeah, it's a different approach. If you provide advice and support upon request or as needed, I feel it's a little too late. Because if it's needed, you already missed a point where it could have been useful, and then you realize it's needed. Whereas by being proactive, you can, especially as an experienced entrepreneur and investor, I feel I am able to see things long before they become a necessity. And so, not pushing that, but providing that unsolicited sometimes saves a lot of headache and a lot of expensive mistakes. So again, the whole ecosystem is we bring good projects, good people, and smart money together, get them to their next stage in the business cycle, and then rinse and repeat until they're profitable businesses or there's a liquidity event. And in order to do that, I realized a couple of years ago, because I was watching a panel and I disagreed with everything that was said on the panel, so I stood up and gave my perspective on why what was discussed is not beneficial for the industry, but it's harmful. And then
Just to pause a second.
Yes.
I just got a mental image of The Big Short when Steve Carell stands up and basically tells the mortgage broker that it's full of you know what, and that there's no chance that these bonds are going to work out. And I kind of visualize you doing the same thing. Did you take a phone call right then also? And
No, and it wasn't a financial discussion. It was a legal.
Okay,
And,
yeah, go ahead.
So I realized that I need to give more and provide more thought leadership. As much as I love being behind the scenes and just working hard and let the product and the service we provide speak for itself, I realize I'm doing both our brand as well as everyone else who's interested in the blockchain and this service by not sharing the experience.
Sure.
Because it's a unique experience. We all have unique experiences in the space, and more we share the positive ones and warn about the negative ones, more opportunities we're going to have to bring people into this ecosystem. You know, whenever you see a news piece or an interview with someone who doesn't understand or doesn't believe or has a personal reason to bash blockchain or crypto assets, that affects the industry as a whole because they bring that visibility with a negative light. So I started doing the exact opposite, trying to bring a very positive perspective and have a real dialogue about real experiences, not speculation, not made up stories, nothing like that. So I think that also plays well into the small ecosystem we have where we are able to get attention to the right projects and the right people in the space. And it all connects very nicely, and I think we're just going to continue doing that. Maybe just as an added bonus now, because now there are more mature projects in the space and they may reach a growth stage as opposed to being stuck at the early startup stages of business. We will also provide some assistance in the needs of those type of companies. So, you know, the one thing that keeps popping in my head is treasury management and liquidity and things like that, where when you first fundraise, you don't think about it, but then after a bear market and after realizing maybe just getting listed on an exchange is not enough and you need some help. Again, we want to expand our partnership across time to all the needs of the projects that are in the portfolio.
I think for ICOs, SPOs, whatever form fundraising takes, unless you have treasury management, you're at this point it's highly questionable. Like I doubt any project that isn't clearly articulating how they're managing their funds after their raise.
You would be surprised.
It makes me it always made me nervous. Now it's a huge red flag, and there's either the innocent they hadn't thought about yet, what you're kind of alluding to, but as the years, as the days and the years pass, it's hard to claim innocence. I mean, at some point, there's been enough stories of people absconding or misspending the money or misusing the resources that it's got to get handled, and it's got to be handled ideally in an auditable manner.
Well, I mean, the interesting
Feel free to push back, but I'm just...
No.
I guess as a lawyer, that's my nervousness.
I agree with you, but...
I think of it as almost like a client trust account.
The most interesting thing that I heard in the past couple of years is a couple of the people who are founders of our portfolio companies openly said, I never had access to this much money, and now I do, and I don't know what to do with it.
Right.
So it's not malice most of the time. It's just if you take someone who's never managed even hundreds of thousands of dollars and suddenly they have access to hundreds of millions, there's a disconnect. I mean, it's very difficult. None of us can say, oh, I'll do a great job. If you never had that kind of responsibility, it's tough. That's why maybe an external system, just like you said, auditable external system, is of value to these projects where that takes that pressure off of them. So it's not so much holding them accountable. It's more giving them the right tools so they don't stress and worry about, okay, now I have $50 million on this little keychain and I don't know what to do with it, I'm going to leave it in Ethereum. Oh, Ethereum crashed, now I have 4 million. Not a good thing for anyone involved, the investors, other stakeholders, the employees, the founders. So again, I think it's more of empowerment at the later stages of the project than creating checks and balances and monitoring people.
Let me put it this way. Based on what you said, I'll modify my position. I'll say I think it's both. I think that from a entrepreneur's perspective, you're making a completely valid point, and you're right. It's not necessarily malicious. You've got some of them are young, some of them are new.
Yes.
They're not necessarily following. You're involved in their own. They may be sticking to their own lane. So you're right. I think if I'm representing investors, it's my responsibility to look at how the funds are being managed, and I'm not even have any negative feeling about the person who raised the funds, but just for safety purposes. And I mean, something happens to them physically. How do you access those funds?
Yes.
How do you unlock a wallet?
Yes.
So, but this is what makes things like that make it an exciting time. Yes, of course, multi-sig. There's all kinds of ways to slice and dice that issue, but you have to be aware of the issue in order to slice and dice it.
Absolutely.
So, I think you coming in as advisor and bringing this to their attention can only be positive. So we thank you for your service. So I'm going to call it for now. Obviously, we're going to do many more interviews and many more talks as time progresses. But great to see you here at Hong Kong Blockchain Week. And
you too.
To be continued.